Lord instructs Srila Buddha Goswami. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. Text 41. Okay? Did we miss anything? Oh, okay. Sri Prabhupada ki Balagrash Satabhagasya Shradha Kalapitaya Bhagotivo Swa Yagai Iticha Para Shruti. Hare Krishna. Translation. If we divide the tip of a hair into 100 parts and then take one part and divide it into another 100 parts, that 10,000 part is the dimension of the living entity. This is verse in the chief Vedic mantras. Purport. The first three padas is from the Dashi Chitra Deepa. They are taken from the Svetashvara Upanishadam 5.9. 122. Krishna says, among all minute particles, I am the living entity. Very minute. Smaller than the atom. Atom is a minute particle, but living entities are smaller than the atom. Therefore, you cannot measure the size of the atom. You cannot see, even with a microscope, powerful microscope, you cannot see the soul, because the lens that you're using is made up of atoms. So how we can understand something that is finer than the atoms is with a measuring stick of atoms, how we can calculate what's beyond the atoms. So it's very, very small, very, very difficult to see. But possible, it is possible, Krishna says. Yogis, they can see. Devotees, if they want, they can. So this is our part. Somebody asked Prabhupada, was it? He said, Bhavananda Prabhu, he asked really Prabhupada, what is how can Lord Caitanya say that he is lower than the straw in the street? Because he's Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's greater than the greatest. How he can say that in his Shikshastikam, that he's lower than the straw in the street? And Prabhupada said he could say that because he understood the size of the living entities, 1/10,000 size of tip, but he was feeling himself 1/10,000 size of the tip of a hair. And therefore, you could understand the meaning of the Shikshakshikam. Text 142. So if we understand our actual size, we won't become puffed up. Prabhupada mentioned also that if you actually understand your actual size, infinitesimal, he says you cannot become puffed up because practically you are 10,000 sizes. You are lower than the store in the street. It's a fact. So if you're understanding this, then you never become overly puffed up, or more puffed up. 142. Lord Krishna says, among minute particles, I am the living entity. The living entity is purple. The living entity is one with and different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Spirit Soul, the living entity is one in quality with the Supreme Lord. However, the Supreme Lord is bigger than the biggest, and the living entity is smaller than the smallest. This quotation is from the third pada of the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:16. 11. O Lord, although the living entities who have accepted material bodies are spiritual and unlimited in number, if they were all pervading, there will be no question of being under your control. If they are accepted, however, as particles of an eternally existing spiritual entity, as a part of you, who are the Supreme Spirit whole, we must conclude that they are always under your control. If the living entities are simply satisfied with being identical with your spiritual particles, then they will be happy being controllers of so many things. The conclusion is that the living entity and the Supreme Personality of God are one and the same. The conclusion that the living entity and the Supreme Lord, the Personality of God, are one and the same is a faulty conclusion. It is not fact. Krishna says that there is the Jiva in this material world, the Brahman, then there is the Parabrahman, who enters also into the material worlds and maintains them. So we cannot claim that. We can claim we are spirit, we can claim that we are a Brahman, but we can't say that we're the Parabrahman. Because the Parabrahman, Krishna says, I enter into these worlds and maintains them. So as the Atma, Parabrahman, he enters into this world and maintains. We are not maintaining. We may be Brahman, we may be small controllers, but we are not maintaining all living entities here. So Krishna makes that claim because practically it's right. He is that supreme control. And Bhoktaram Jagatapasham Sarvaloko Maheshwaram Shurida. He's the friend, the controller and the enjoyer of everyone. So that's his natural qualities. And it's our natural qualities also, but we have in a minute quantity. Krishna is unlimited quantity. Text 144. The unlimited living entities are divided into two divisions. Those that can move and those that cannot move. Among living entities that can move, there are birds, aquatics, and animals. Prabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us a clear instruction on how the living entities are under different conditions. There are trees, plants, and stones that cannot move, but still they must be considered living entities or spiritual sparks. The soul is present in the bodies like those of trees, plants, stones, and other living entities. Among moving living entities such as birds, aquatics, and animals, the same spiritual spark is there, as stated herein. There are living entities that can fly, swim, and walk. We must also conclude that there are living entities that can move within fire and ether. The living entities have different material bodies composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether. The word Taramati means within the universe. The entire material universe is composed of 5 material elements. It is not true that the living entities reside only within the heart. It is not that living entities reside only within this planet and not in others. Such a conclusion is completely contradictory to the Vedas and as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 2.24. The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble. He can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. The soul has nothing to do with material elements. Any material element can be cut into pieces, especially earth. As far as the living entities are concerned, however, he can neither be burned nor cut to pieces. He therefore can live within fire. We can conclude that there are also living entities within the sun. Why should living entities be denied this planet or that planet? According to the Vedas, the living entities can live in anywhere and everywhere. On the land, on the water, on the land, air, and then on the fire. Whatever condition of life, the living entity is unchangeable. Sthanu. From the statements of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Bhagavad Gita, we are to conclude that the living entities exist everywhere throughout the universe, and they are distributed as trees, plants, aquatics, humans, birds, beasts, and so on. So the living entity cannot be cut by weapon, burned by fire. So Krishna said, previously, Arjuna, I taught this science of Bhagavad Gita to Vivishwan, the sun god. The sun is a planet with a god on it, and all types of life are going on it. Fiery element is very prominent, more prominent than the other elements. And Krishna said, Arjuna, you were there. I spoke this science to the sun god, Vivaswan. You were also there, Arjuna. But you cannot remember, because you change your bodies. But I don't change my body, therefore I can remember. So Krishna and Arjuna, they went to the sun planet, but then they had to have the body of fire to get there. Everything is fiery element. So this is how the yogis, they perform their different practices for attaining siddhis and everything, like walking on the water. Anima siddhi, is it anima? Become lighter than the lightest. And then you can walk on water. There's a picture in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj is being thrown off the mountain. And underneath the mountain, Krishna is there like this, waiting to catch. Prabhupada said it's not exactly like that. He said that he had the siddhi, or Krishna benedicted him with the siddhi, that he become lighter than the lightest. So although he was thrown off the mountain, he didn't crash, he just started like a feather floating very lightly. So what the yogis, they do, if they want an airy body, then they know how to control the body and the airs in the body. And they can reduce the earthly elements, and they can increase the fiery element. So by doing that, if they increase the fire, then they can enter into the fire. They can enter into the fiery planet. Or they increase the airy element, and they can walk on water because there's light as a feather. They can. So it's a question of increasing the elements or reducing the elements. You're able to actually use these siddhis, these perfections. Become smaller than the smallest. There was a very famous magician, Houdini. He was an American magician. But I'm pretty sure he had some of these siddhis, because they would lock him up in a prison, state prison, in the cell, plus chain his hands and legs. And they'd lock him up there, and then after some time they would come back. Sometimes they one time they put him in a trunk, put all chains around it, padlocked up, and then they lowered him on the river. There was a frozen river, and then they lowered the trunk inside, under the ice. And they come a little bit later and said, he can come out. So it seems like impossible, but no, if you become smaller than the smallest, then naturally the chains all fall off you, and you can walk out under the door, walk under the door, come back the other side, and then manifest the original form you were in, the earthly form. So like this, they have these different kinds of siddhis. Magic. So, Prabhupada's criticizing the theory that there is no life on other planets. He said, how can they say that? Just because I live here, this is my planet, then there's life on my planet, because I happen to be the controller of this planet. I get my enjoyment from this planet. But all the other planets, without me, they're useless. This is our puffed up nature. Where we do what we do, where we go, and everything is reality. Everything else. But it's kind of a ridiculous theory when you look up at night and you see how many billions of stars, how many you can't see, and say that there's no life on those planets. But here, everywhere you look, there's life. So it's not a very sound theory. Hare Krishna. Although the living entities, known as human beings, are very small in quantity, the division may still be further subdivided, for there are many uncultured human beings, like Malechas, Paulinas, Bodhas, and Shabaras. Shabaras, Jai Jagannath. The Shabaras used to take care of Lord Jagannath. King Vishavashu, Shabara tribe. Pulindas are the village girls. Pulindas, these are the girls, they so love Krishna in Vrindavan, but they don't associate with Krishna. Krishna's a Vaishya, the Pulindas are like, what do you say, aboriginals, the original buses. They collect cow dung and jewels, things from the forest. And when they see Krishna, and they see where he's been walking in the red kumkum, from Krishna's feet is fallen, they take that kumkum dust and they rub it on their chest to relieve themselves.
Lust. To relieve them from their lust.
To relieve them, yeah, from their lusty desires. Thank you. From their lusty desires, they get relief. One day there's an argument about somebody stole Krishna's flute. So, but this is only a piece of bamboo. Why are you so worried about getting the flute to Krishna? The gopis and Krishna play. It's only a piece of bamboo flute. It's got holes in it also. It's pretty practically useless. Anyway, we'll break it up. We can make Krishna, no, that's my flute. No, don't do the breaking flute. He's very concerned. And then we can make it, so many trees, there's so many bamboos. You can make flute. We can get the gopis, so we can get those Pulinda tribal people. They deal with bamboos, those who make bamboos and bamboo plates. It's kind of a low-class occupation, according to the Vedas. So, Krishna says, how do you know those Pulindas? He said, they're my girlfriends. How do you know them? So they're the Aboriginal girls. So they're considered like Malechas outside of Varnashram. They don't practice Varnashram. We are from Malecha Desh or Kasha Desh or other deshes. Considered outside of the Varnashrams. Varnashram begins at Shudra. And after that is considered uncultured, un-Aryan. Why you are acting like an un-Aryan, Arjuna? Aryan means civilized, begins at that point. So all these different species and types of life are there in God's creation. It's not a place for Krishna, it's not a place where the living entities don't live. They exist everywhere. 146. Among human beings, those who are followers of the Vedic principles are considered civilized. Amongst these, almost half simply give lip service while committing all kinds of sinful activities against these principles. Such people do not care for regulative principles. So although they get human form of life, They don't really care to follow. They will say, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian, I'm a whatever their religion. But actually they don't follow the teachings, just that Prabhupada used to point out all the time. Thou shalt not kill, this is Jesus, these commandments. Yesterday was Jesus' birthday. So oh yeah, thou shalt not kill. He said, but they plain openly kill. The government are sanctioning slaughterhouse. So quite openly they kill. But yeah, you ask them, are you Christian? Yes. But are they following Christ's instructions? So they do not care to follow the regular principles, but they be attached to a name or identity of being a religious person. Purport: the word Veda means knowledge. The Supreme Lord consists of the supreme knowledge consists of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our relationship with Him, and act according to that relationship. Veda, this is what Veda is teaching. This is pointing out here, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. Knowledge, the supreme knowledge, it consists of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our relationship with Him, Sambandha, and act according to the relationship, that's the Abhideya, the process of devotional service, and the fruit of that will be love of Godhead. When we practice nicely, we get the result will be love of God. That is the Prayojana, the final goal of life. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu said that the Vedas only speak of these three things: Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. Only these things are being spoken of in the Vedas. No one can trace out the history of the Vedic principles set forth so that man might understand the Supreme Being. Literatures or knowledge that seeks the Supreme Being can be different, can be of different types of religious systems according to the place. The disciples literature or knowledge that seeks the Supreme Being can be accepted as bona fide religious system. That activity which awakens your love for Krishna, this can be accepted as a bona fide religion. But there are many different types of religious systems according to the place, the disciples and the people's capacity to understand. The highest type of religious system is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-26. Thus, Shavaya Pumsham Parodharma Jito Bhaktir Atoksaje. The highest form of religion is that by which one becomes fully conscious of the existence of God, including His form, name, qualities, pastimes, abode, and all pervasive features. When everything is completely known, that is the perfection of Vedic knowledge. The fulfillment of Vedic knowledge is the systematic knowledge of the characteristics of God. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedashavaya aham eva vedya. The aim of Vedic knowledge is to understand God, and those who are actually following Vedic knowledge and searching after God cannot commit sinful activities against the Supreme Lord's order. However, in this age of Kali, although the men profess to belong to many different kinds of religions, most of them commit simple activities against the order of the Vedic scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says herein, Veda Nishita Papa Kari Karma Dharma Nahi Gani. In this age, men may profess a religion, but actually do not follow the principles. Instead, they commit all kinds of sins. 1.7. Among the followers of the Vedic knowledge, mostly are following the process of fruitive activity and distinguishing between good and bad. Out of many such sincere fruitive workers, there may be one who is actually wise. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the word Karamanishta refers to one who aspires to enjoy the results of his good work and pious activities. Some followers of the Vedic principles offer everything to the absolute truth and do not aspire to enjoy the results of their pious actions. These are also considered amongst the Karmanishtas. Sometimes you see pious men earn money and with great hardship they spend the money for some pious cause by opening public charities, schools, hospitals. Whether one earns money for himself or for public benefit, it is called karmanishta. Out of millions of karmanishtas, there may be one who is wise. Those who try to avoid fruitive activities and become silent in order to merge into the spiritual existence of the absolute truth. They are generally known as Gyanis, wise men. They are not interested in fruitive activities, but in merging with the Supreme. In either case, the Karmanistas and the Gyanis are interested in personal benefit. The Karmis are directly interested in personal benefit within the material world, and the Gyanis are interested in merging with the existence of the Supreme. The Gyanis maintain that fruitive activity is imperfect. For them, perfection is cessation of work and merging into the Supreme existence. That is their goal in life. The Gyani wants to extinguish the distinction between knowledge, the knower, and the aim of knowledge. This philosophy is called monism or oneness, and it is characterized by spiritual silence. Everything is one. So the Karmanishtas here, people who are attached to enjoying in this material world, they want to get pleasure from the material activities, material sense objects. They're the Karmis. And the Gyanis, they don't want to enjoy the material world, they're the opposite. They want to get out of the material world. The Karmis want to enjoy the material world, the Gyanis, they want to get out of the material world. And the Bhaktas, they don't want to enjoy, they don't want to get out. They want to serve Krishna. That's their only business. So, spiritual silence. This is a very common conception, I think, of spiritual. When you talk of spiritual, you're searching spiritual. Similar to Buddhism or the silence. Buddha has this, What's he saying about the silence? Sound of one hand clapping. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Only one hand. Here's the sound. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Prabhupada said, I slap your face. So they try, everything is void, everything is silence, there's nothing. So they try to search it. In that silence, they try to bring themselves to the stage of Brahman. Within that silence, they try to find out the existence of God. Out of many millions of such wise men, out of many millions of such wise men, one may actually become liberated, mukta. And out of many millions of such liberated persons, the pure devotee of Lord Krishna, very difficult to find. So out of millions of such wise men, so this is explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam Jamananti. Krishna said out of thousands and thousands of people who are searching for truth, they want the truth, they're looking, searching. Out of thousands and thousands of those, one may become wise, he may become to the platform of spiritual realization. After being a jnani for thousands of births, then Krishna says, what does he say? Vasudeva sarvamiti samhatma sadulabhe. After those thousands and thousands of births of searching, he comes to this conclusion. Vasudeva sarvamiti means Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the person who comes to this point of accepting, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality. It took him thousands and thousands of births to come to that conclusion. So Prabhupada said here, is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, after thousands and thousands of births, you'll come to this conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and you'll surrender to him. Now, Prabhupada said, I'm telling you, right now, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you accept my words, Prabhupada, you skip or you jump those thousands and thousands of births of being a jnani. Because the conclusion of those thousands of births of being a jnani was that you come to the platform of Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you hear from Prabhupada, if you hear from me and accept it, then you will skip, you jump over all those thousands and thousands of births. So this is the benefit of meeting a pure devotee of the Lord. So out of many millions of such liberated persons, the pure devotee of Lord Krishna is very difficult to understand. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32, it is said that due to their power fund of knowledge, the jnanis are not actually liberated. They simply think that they are liberated. The perfection of knowledge culminates when one comes to the platform of knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmaniti Paramatmati Bhagavaniti, the absolute truth. Satya Pashtu is described as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the super soul is imperfect unless one comes to the platform of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is therefore clearly said in this verse, Koti Muktir Madhyi Durlabha Eka Nish Krishna Bhakta. Those who search after knowledge of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma are certainly accepted as liberated, but due to their imperfect knowledge, they are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Vimukta Manina. Since their knowledge is imperfect, their conception of liberation is imperfect. Perfect knowledge is possible when one knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is supported by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Bhokturam Jagata Pasyam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Shridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatpamam Shantim Richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and all austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor of all living, benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attached to, they attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. The peace formula, Prabhupada, this verse, Bhoktaram Jagat. Prabhupada then called it the peace formula. When Prabhupada was there in America at that time, there was a big move for peace, peace, love. So it's a big part of the philosophy that we want peace, we want peace. Why all these wars are going on, why the governments and people protest, peace marches, and so Prabhupada at that time wrote a little article, the peace formula. Here it is. When you understand Krishna is the controller of all the planets, when you understand Krishna is the enjoyer of all these planets, when you understand Krishna is sitting in your heart as your best friend, these things, you know. And then you will become peaceful. If you know and accept Krishna's position in this material world, you will become wise and peaceful. Research is going on for the karmis, gyanis and yogis, but until the research is complete, no one can attain peace. Therefore the Bhagavad Gita says, Katvamam Shantim Richati, one can actually attain peace when he knows Krishna. This is described in the next verse. Only when you know Krishna you can attain the ultimate peace. Practically on every page. How many times have we read the last few pages? How many times Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared here? Prabhupada said, I put practically on every page of my books, I put Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody can refute it anymore. It's so established in my purports. And it's a fact. It's a fact when we understand Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can immediately accept, and we see that in devotees' lives. Immediately we can accept. Prabhupada said, about coming to Krishna, he said, yeah, but as soon as you heard Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said, you come running towards him. Running, where is Krishna? Because this is ultimately what the living entity is searching for, the soul is searching for. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Those who are actually after right. But anyway, he said those who are searching after love of Godhead, the ultimate goal, they find their resting place in Sridham Mayapur, Sridham Mayapur Ki. Yeah. So if you come to Mayapur, it's understood that you've done everything you should have done as a human being now. Somehow or another you're in Mayapur. There's no other place to go. They find their resting place in Sridham Mayapur. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers, fruitive workers desire material enjoyment. The Jnani desires liberation, and the yogi desires opulence, material opulence. And therefore they're all lusty. They cannot be peaceful. But they're all kami. They want something from the Lord. The Kama yogi, he wants material enjoyment. The Jnana yogi, he wants his liberation. The yogi, he wants his siddhi. Everybody wants something. Oh, kami, lusty desire. But the devotee also wants. So he comes under the category of kami. Kami. No, he's not an enjoyer. He gives everything for Krishna's enjoyment. He does everything for Krishna's pleasure. That is his pleasure. So therefore, because all the other types of yogis, everything, they want something from Krishna. But the devotee, he doesn't want anything from Krishna. He wants to give to Krishna. He wants to expand Krishna's pastimes, his service. He wants to assist in his service. But all the others, they want something. They're known as kami. They have lusty desires. And as a result, they cannot be peaceful. Purport. The devotee of Lord Krishna has no desire other than serving Krishna. Even the so-called even the so-called liberated persons are full of desires. Fruitive actors desire better living accommodations. The Jnanis want to be one with the Supreme. Yogis desire material opulence, yogic perfection, and all magic. All these non-devotees are lusty, kami, because they desire something. Because they desire something, they cannot have peace. The peace formula, oh here it is. The peace formula was given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhoktaram jagatapasham sarvalok maheshwaram sridam sarvabhutanam gyatpamam shantim richati. Only one who simply understands that throughout the entire universe, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the benefactor of all kinds of sacrifices, penance, and austerities. That Krishna is a supreme being and thus the proprietor of all material worlds. And that Krishna is the only friend who can actually do good to all living entities. Shuddhidam sarvabhutanam, one who understands these three principles about Krishna immediately becomes desireless, nishkam, and therefore peaceful. The Krishna Bhakta knows that his friend and protector in all respects is Krishna, one who is able to do anything for Krishna. The Krishna Bhakta knows that his friend and protector in all respects is Krishna, who is able to do anything for his devotee. Krishna says, Kuntiya pratijani nami bhakta pranashati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly, my devotee will never perish. Since Krishna gives assurance, the devotee lives in Krishna and has no desire for personal benefit. The background for a devotee is the all-good Lord, is the all-good himself. Why should a devotee aspire for something good for himself? His only business is to please the Supreme by rendering as much service as possible. A Krishna Bhakti, he has no desire for his own personal benefit. He is completely protected by the Supreme. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he is desireless because Krishna will give him all protection in all circumstances. It is not that he expects any assistance from Krishna, but he simply depends on Krishna, just as a child depends on his parents. The child does not know how to expect service from his parents, but he is always protected nonetheless. This is called nishkama, desirelessness. Although the karmis, jnanis and yogis fulfill their desire by performing various activities, they are never satisfied. The karmi man works very hard to acquire $1 million, but as soon as he gets $1 million, he desires another million. For the karmis, there is no end to desire. The more he gets, the more, because their intelligence is unsound. They want to merge into the Brahman effulgence, but even though they may be raised to the platform, they cannot be satisfied there. There are many jnanis and sannyasis who, after taking sannyas and giving up the world as false, return to the world to engage in politics or philanthropy or to open schools or hospitals. This means that they could not attain real Brahman, Brahma Satyam. They have to come back down again to the material platform and engage in philanthropic activities. And thus, they again cultivate desires. And when these desires are exhausted, they desire something different. Therefore, the jnani cannot be niskama or desireless, nor can the yogi be desireless, for they desire yogic perfection in order to exhibit some kind of magical feats and gain popularity. People gather around the yogis, and the yogis desire more and more adulation. Because they misuse their mystic power, they fall down again to the material platform. It is not possible for them to become niskama or desireless. The conclusion is that only the devotee who is simply satisfied in serving the Lord can become actually desireless. Therefore, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Bhakti Nishkama. Since the Krishna Bhakta, the devotee of Krishna, is satisfied with Krishna, there is no possibility of falling down. O great sage, out of millions of materially liberated persons, those who are freed from ignorance, and out of millions of those siddhas who have nearly attained the perfection, there is hardly one pure devotee of Narayana. Only such a devotee is actually completely satisfied and peaceful. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 5. The Narayana Parana, the devotees of Lord Narayana, is the devotee of Lord Narayana is the only blissful person. One who becomes a Narayana Parayana is already liberated from material bondage. He already possesses all perfections of a yogi. Unless one comes to the platform of Narayana Parayana and passes over the platforms of Bhukti, Mukti and Siddhi, he cannot become fully satisfied. That is the pure perfection of stage. Those who desire nothing but Krishna and who is not influenced by the process of jnana marg, cultivation of knowledge, he actually becomes free from ignorance. The first-class person is one who is not influenced by karma, fruitive activities, or yoga, mystic power. He simply depends on Krishna and is satisfied by devotional service. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayana Para Sharvina Kutaschana bibhati. Such a person is never afraid of anything. For him, heaven and hell are the same. Not knowing the situation of a Narayana Parayana, rascals become envious. By the grace of Narayana, a devotee is situated in the most opulent position in the material world. Rascals are envious of Narayana and his devotees, but the devotees endeavor to please other devotees of Narayana because he knows that by pleasing Narayana, his representative, one directly pleases Lord Narayana. Therefore, a devotee offers the best comforts and facilities to his spiritual master. Outsiders who have no knowledge of Narayan are envious of both Lord Narayan and his devotee. Consequently, when they see that Narayan devotee is opulently situated, they become even more envious. But when the devotee of Narayan asks such foolish person to come and live at the same comfortable situation, they will not agree to come. They cannot give up illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, intoxication. Therefore, the materialists refuse the company of Narayana Parayana. Although he is envious of the Lord's material situation, in the Western countries, when ordinary men, the storekeepers and workers, see our devotees living and eating sumptuously, and yet not working, they become very eager to know where they get all the money. Such persons become envious and ask, how is it possible you live so comfortably without working? How is it you have many cars, bright faces, and nice clothes? Not knowing that Krishna looks after his devotees, such people become surprised, and some become envious. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He said the Christian priest he was preaching to one time, they are men, they're all like that, they're all bright faced. Prabhupada liked that, and he was used to quote it. Oh yes, is such and such person. He says, our men are all bright faced because they know Krishna. They are on the way to Krishna. They have that faith in Krishna. They take their shelter in Krishna. They're assured of Krishna's protection. And actually they become happy. Otherwise, this material world is a very fearful place. Padama, padama, padama. Every moment there is dangers. But the devotee is depending completely on Krishna. So they don't have any fears. Naturally they become bright-faced, shiny face. He said they are saying, these priests, these are our boys. These are our boys. And when they was coming to the church, or they was hardly going to the church, but now you've come, and now they're all running, becoming interested in going to the temple. What is the secret? Before, these are all our boys, they're all Christians, because nobody knew Krishna. But now they're all coming, they're mad after Krishna. Although it's a fact, you become happy when you understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the ultimate goal of understanding. And when you perform his service to please him, then one actually becomes he becomes happy in this situation. He is supposed to be in this situation. Aham Brahmasmi, the living entity is Brahman. He is truth, the spiritual truth. He is the eternal servant of Krishna. So when we find out and we act in the capacity of serving Krishna, then the living entities become happy. It's time, 5:30. What time we finish? Huh? 6. Yeah. There was a verse here, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Shakliya Shanta. Bhukti, whether you want enjoyment, Mukti if you want liberation, Siddhi you want perfection. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. Any kind of desires you have. Shakliya Shanta. As long as you have any of these desires, you will not be peaceful. Who is the Shanta then? Who is peaceful? Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami, they're all Ashanta, they're all not peaceful. So who is the peaceful one? That is Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Bhakta. He is the actually only one who's peaceful. He knows Krishna and he's taken shelter of Krishna. And nobody's going to move him from that realization. When you are confronted with the absolute truth, you cannot deny it. If you actually feel love, you cannot deny this. It's Krishna's love. It's Krishna's truth. This is the absolute truth. You cannot deny it when you're in the presence of a person who has great love for Krishna. O great sage, out of many millions of liberated persons who are free from ignorance, and out of many, many people of siddhas. Do we read this? Where are we?
We should now read 151.
Okay, 151. According to their karma, all the living entities are wandering around the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems. Some are going down to the lower planetary systems, and out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets the opportunity to associate with a pure devotee, with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna. By the grace of both Krishna and the spiritual master, the person receives the seed and the creeper of devotional service. Purport. When we speak of Brahmananda, we refer to the whole process. When we speak of Brahmananda, we refer to the whole universe, or the cluster of many millions of universes. In all the scriptures, there are innumerable planets. In all the universes, there are innumerable planets, and there are innumerable living entities upon those planets. In the air, on the land, and in the water, there are millions and trillions of living entities everywhere. They're all engaged by Maya in suffering and enjoying the results of their fruitive activity, life after life. This is the position of a materially conditioned living entities. Out of many of these living entities, one who is actually fortunate, Bhagyavan, becomes in contact with a bona fide devotee, spiritual master. By Krishna's mercy. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart. And if one desires something, Krishna fulfills one's desires. If the living entity by chance or fortune comes in contact with Krishna consciousness movement and wishes to associate with that movement, Krishna, who is situated in everyone's heart, gives him the chance to meet a bona fide spiritual master. This is called Guru Kripa Prasada. Krishna is prepared to bestow his mercy upon all living entities. And as soon as the living entities desire the Lord's mercy, the Lord immediately gives him an opportunity to meet a bona fide spiritual master. Such a fortunate person is fortified by both Krishna and the spiritual master. He is held from within by Krishna and from without by the spiritual master. Both are prepared to help the sincere living entity become free from material bondage. How can one become this fortunate can be seen in the life of Srila Narad Muni. In his previous life, he was born as a maidservant. Although he was not born in a prestigious position, his mother was fortunately engaged in rendering service to some Vaishnavas. And when these Vaishnavas were resting during the Chaturmasha period, the boy Narad took the opportunity to engage in their service. Taking compassion upon the boy, the Vaishnavas offered the remnants of their food. By serving these Vaishnavas and obeying the orders, the boy became an object of their sympathy. And by the Vaishnavas' unknown mercy, he gradually became a pure devotee. And in his next life, he was Narad Muni, the most exalted of Vaishnavas, and the most important guru and acharya of the Vaishnavas. Following in the footsteps of Narad Muni, thus, this Krishna consciousness movement is rendering service to humanity by giving everyone a chance to come in contact with Krishna. If one is fortunate, he becomes intimately related with this movement. Then, by the grace of Krishna, one's life becomes successful. Everyone has dormant Krishna bhakti, love for Krishna. And in the association of good devotees, that love is revealed, as stated in the Caitanya, Madhya Lila 2207. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Satya Prabhu Naya, Shravanadi Shuddha Jita Karaya Udaya. Dormant devotional service to Krishna is within everyone. Simply by associating with devotees, hearing their good instruction and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one awakens his dormant love for Krishna. In this way, one acquires the seed of devotional service, Guru Krishna Prasadi Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. Oh. Anyone have any questions so far? Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your excellent class. I have a question concerning Arjuna's body. Because here, when you were giving class, you mentioned Krishna told Arjuna, you cannot remember once they were in the sun globe, and Krishna was telling the sun god, the last one of the Gita. But then, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand Arjuna and all the other members of Pandavas, they went back to Godhead in their same bodies. So since Krishna's pastime is rotating, that means actually from the previous pastime, they also went back to their same bodies. So that means Krishna told Arjuna, you cannot remember because you change the bodies. It's like pastime, right? It's not really correct because he changed his body, because his body is also spiritual. Is this understanding correct?
Prabhupada says that they went back in the same bodies?
In Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam. Yeah, all these pastimes are going on eternally. Prabhupada says right now, Krishna is lifting up Govardhan Hill. Right now, Krishna is killing the Aghasura demon. Right now, Krishna is in Dwarka with his wife, family. It's going on eternally. Right now, one of the pastimes is happening somewhere. But they're always going on eternally. There's always somewhere in this world or another world, the pastimes are going on, the presence. So they can expand also. Just like when Raghunath Das Goswami was going to excavate Sri Radhakunda, then the Pandavas appeared in a dream, and they said that this is our bhajanasthana. We sit here, we're meditating on these pastimes of Krishna at Radhakunda, and we'll be taking the form of trees. There's 5 trees, and they're just sitting there by the bank watching all the pastimes. So they said, don't cut us down. We're the Pandava brothers. Please don't cut the trees down. So they can expand as they like. And they're going to help Krishna in different features. Krishna says, you're always with me, Arjuna. He's such a dear friend. He's always with him. So when Krishna takes a form, then Arjuna will take a form to suit Krishna's form. So he can assist him in this different pastime. Just like the son, Krishna went to speak, the son God, teach him Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna went. He went also. But he had to have a fire body. But he difficult subject matter. Anyway, we can accept that it does happen. But we're dealing with a different world, the spiritual world, and people can do things like that. They can expand themselves into. Even Shukadeva Goswami expanded himself into another Shukadeva. Mother and father wanted to stay at home, so he said, okay, I'll stay at home. Simultaneously, he left in his renounced form of the Shukadeva Goswami. Prabhupada talking about the yogis here, the yogi perfections. Prabhupada was saying that the yogis, they take a dip in the Ganga, they go out the Ganga, in Allahabad say. Ganga is Triveni. And he said, Prabhupada said that the yogis, they take a dip here in Allahabad. And then they come up in Kaveri River, going down South India. So they dip down in one place, and then they come up in another holy place. And Prabhupada said, it's true. He said, it's a fact. I have seen. What does it mean, I have seen? It means you've got to have been in Allahabad, you've got to have been at the Kaveri River also. Prabhupada said, I've seen. So Prabhupada had those cities also. Caitanya explained that one time. TOVP is here, but it's externally existing. We don't see it, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he saw. Grihi Goloka Bhaya, his song. Grihi Goloka Bhaya. I was performing my devotional service in my house, and suddenly I saw my house had become Vrindavan, it's all Chintamani stones, and by the power of devotional service, manifested. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was doing that, chanting Ekoti Lakh names, thousands and thousands of names. his bhajan stand, Radha Kund came, appeared before him. So not only the human-like people, but also all the other living entities there in different forms. They're all as eternal. In Hyderabad, maybe 1974. And Prabhupada was going to open that center there. So he said that tomorrow is Sri Janmashtami. And we will have this temple inauguration. We'll open the temple and we'll install these deities. I think Madana Mohanji. We will install the deities here and have this program. Temple opening, deity installation, great festival. And then he said the next day, the day after that, in another place, exactly the same thing goes on. He said this is called Nitya Lila. Eternal pastimes are going up from one place to another. So this, what we're dealing with, spiritual life, is beyond really our comprehension. But we can accept what the acharyas say. But and if you're pure enough, you can also see the pasta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us by his personal example as the Bhakta Avatar. So many examples Mahaprabhu gave us. But it's beyond our comprehension, but that's great. If it was within our comprehension, it wouldn't be so fantastic. If God did everything he did is comprehensible, what does it mean in our God? If he comprehends everything. So God is incomprehensible. And therefore we accept it. Yeah, of course, He's great. He's so great. There was one club. What was the name of that club? Mentor or something like. Anyway, there was this club. You had to have a very high IQ. You have to be very, very intelligent to join this club. And Prabhupada met these people from this club. So they were very intelligent and they... Huh? Pardon? Okay. So they asked him this question, very intelligent question. It was a trick question. We'll catch the Swami because we are the elite of intelligence. So they asked him this question. Is God so great that he can lift a mountain that is... He can lift a mountain God is so great that he can lift a mountain. Oh no, he can create. God is so great, he can create a mountain that is so big that he cannot lift it. It's a trick question. Can he create a mountain that is so big that he cannot lift it? If he can do it, then he's not God. And if he can't do it, he's also not God. So it's a trick question. So he asked him, is God so great he can create a mountain that is so big that he cannot lift it? Prabhu said, yes. He said, then he's not God. Prabhu said, then he can lift. He cannot lift it, then he is good, then he is not God. Then he can lift. So if God has to show his prowess, sometimes he does, he manifests. Not necessary to show all the time, but if sometimes to show he is God, then he can live. One of those men became Prabhupada's disciples, but they were very impressed. Yeah. Anyway, it's all comprehensible, incomprehensible, many, many things. But many things are comprehensible. Krishna comes and he shows his pastimes, his forms, his names, reveals. That we can take advantage of. Hearing from his pure devotees, the bona fide pastimes of the Lord. That much we can do. But to try to know so much, Krishna's always expanding his knowledge. Cognizant factor is appreciating some of his energies he didn't know he had. And then he has to increase his knowledge, acquiring propensity to understand. So like this is always a competition between Krishna and his energies. His energies expand, and Krishna, he expands to know those energies. And they, oh, he's enjoying my energies, he wants more, so I'll manifest more energies. So there's a competition going on between Krishna and his energies. So therefore, Chinta Veda Veda Tattva, we had Mahaprabhu has come to present the greatest philosophies that incorporates everything. Chinta Veda Veda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Thank you. I don't know if I got the question. Any other question? Hare Krishna.
Вначале мы слышали, что душа, она стотная часть там кончиков волоса, маленькая такая есть. Вопрос в том, что потом Прабhu говорил о смирении, которое нужно быть. Как иметь смирение, когда проповедуем? Потому что очень часто, когда проповедует человек так, смирение не всегда помогает. Нужно быть так громче покричать.
We read that soil very small, and if we know about this, it means we become humble. If we know we are very small, but when we preach, it's not work if we humble. We cannot be humble sometimes. How to explain
If you understand it's very small, then you can become humble, but
yeah, and when we understand small, automatically we become humble. But when we preach, sometimes it not work for preaching.
What
We cannot be humble during the preaching.
Тогда надо накричать, чтобы чтобы люди помнили, потому что
Sometimes we should be more aggressive, not humble.
you mean the situation is such that you cannot become humble in that?
боль прийти.
Yeah, and when we understand, we cannot be humble. But when we preach, sometimes it not work for preaching.
Когда надо накричать, чтобы
Sometimes we should be more aggressive, not humble.
люди помнили, потому что
You mean the situation is such that you cannot become humble in that?
боль прийти. Bold preaching.
Boy is missing. I don't know what it meant.
Bold preaching. Bold preaching.
Bold preaching.
Yeah.
Bold preaching.
I have a solution.
Solution.
Yes. The solution is because sometimes if we are too humble, and then it's easy to make other people take advantage of us. And they don't listen to us. We are like showing very humble and they don't understand us. So the solution is we try to make them humble. We make them understand they are very small and solve the problem. This is my comment. Because his question is that the tricky point, sometimes if we behave too humble, then other people want to take advantage of us.
So your solution was
Make them to understand, make them humble.
yeah, that was the example Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us. He asked Prabhupada, how can Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say that? He's lower than the straw in the street. He said, so how can he say that? And Prabhupada said he could say that because Lord Chaitanya thought, I am 1/10,000th size the tip of a hair. Therefore, I'm lower than the straw in the street. But he is not 1/10,000th size of the hair. We are 1/10,000th size of the hair, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not 1/10th. But because he was acting as a bhakta avatara, playing as a bhakta, and whatever Mahaprabhu did, he did in perfection. So when he's playing a devotee, a role of a devotee, he is Radha and Krishna combined, coming in, playing in a role of a devotee of Krishna and Radha. Then he played in perfection. And therefore he could say that, Ai nanda tu no chakinkaram patitam. He's thinking himself. Yeah, so like that he was playing in perfection as a devotee, and therefore he could, Prabhupada said he could actually feel like that because he was just like Krishna when he saw Jasoda had the stick in his hand, threatening Krishna. And Krishna was shivering. His pearl necklace was ching, 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 ching. His whole body was shivering. So, I can't remember this example. Anyway, the idea was that he was playing in perfection. So I think I must be using another example. I'm sorry, I've lost track. What that example is for. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could say, Prabhupada said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could say that. He could say that. Because he was playing the role of a devotee. And because whatever he does in perfection. He's playing in perfection. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I'm losing all my track of these different examples. Anyway, if you can't be humble, you leave that place. I recommend you. If someone's taken advantage, you cannot maintain humility, then leave that place. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry. Not functioning very well. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Jananivasa Prabhu ki.
Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the nice questions. I'm sorry I couldn't answer properly.
Fresh. Then you'll be ready to go Okay.
One each. One each.
Yes, 35.
Okay.
Oh, how do you doing? My mother made.
Mask, mask, mask. Mask. Okay. Yeah, no. I asked about. Okay, let me know.
Second. Second.
Hare Krishna, the real design.